In this video, we are going to look at comparing and ordering decimal tenths and hundredths. So there's a little chart for you. We're going to use it as the video goes along. If you want to make your own, just pause the video and just write this in your notebook. The second slide asks us how many tenths are shaded and how many hundredths are shaded. So what I want you to look at here is over here, you can see that there are rows here, or in this case, columns. So each one of them has 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so there's 10. So there's 1/10 here, 2/10 here, and 3/10 here. So there are 3/10 shaded. So we write it 3/10. Now, if you look at the smaller ones, there's 30 of them. So 30 hundredths. So what this is saying is 3/10 is equivalent to 30 hundredths. This is what we did during our fractions unit as well. Next slide. So how would you write 3/10 as a decimal? So I want you to just have a look here at the tenth side. Basically, tenths means it's a fraction out of 10. Hundredths means it's a fraction out of 100. And thousandths, which we are not looking at in this video, is just a fraction out of 1,000. But they do follow the same pattern. So how would you write 3/10 as a decimal? Well, you would just put a 3 under the tenths column. And it's nice to put a 0 in the front. And the second part here says, how would you write 30 hundredths as a decimal? Well, it's the same thing. You would write it like this. Now, some people do not put the 0 here, but for this video and in like grade 5 or grade 6, I do recommend that you do put a 0 there, just because you will find examples that are tricky, and it's just better to have the 0 there. You just have to trust me on this one. But typically we don't write it, but just do it for grade 5 and grade 6. So here it says write two equivalent fractions and two equivalent decimals for the amount shaded. So we'll do the fractions first for A. So the fractions here, first thing you'll notice is that there is 100 and there are 50 shaded. In an equivalent fraction, we would do this out of 10. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 50 over 100 is equivalent to 5/10. Now what they're saying for two equivalent decimals here is 50 over 100 is equal to 0.50, which is equal to 0.5. These are the same. Okay. For question B, you'll see here we have 1, 2. So there's this would mean 2/10. There's 2/10, which is equivalent to 20/100. Doesn't matter which order you write them in. So 2/10, the decimal is 0.2. 20/100, or 20 hundredths, the decimal is 0.20. 0.20. Next slide here. So again, this one here has 2, which would be 2/10, which is equivalent to 20/100. And for the decimals, 2/10 is 0.2. 20 hundredths is 0.20. And the last one, if you count them all up, you will find that there are 7 here. So you can write it 70/100 for 70 hundredths, which is equivalent to 7/10. And the decimals, 0.70 is equivalent to 0.7. So these are equivalent decimals, equivalent fractions. Next slide, we're going to next slide. So which decimal is larger? So the next slide will demonstrate this in a visual way. So let's see what it says. So let's grab a little paintbrush here to make this a little bit quicker. So 0.8 means 8/10. So that's what this means. So this is 8/10. Okay, and if we were to color 8/10, we have 1/10 here, 2/10, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Don't mind the messy scribbling. It's not a really big deal, is it? So 8/10 looks like this. So now for the next one, we have 12/10. And over here, oh, sorry, we have 12/100. But right here, this is where it's tenths. And here's hundredths. Okay, so there's a 1/10 here that needs to be colored. So there's one. There's a 1/10. And 2/100. Okay, so when the common mistake kids will make at early stages of learning this topic is they will tell me that this one here is larger because they see 2 decimals there and there's only 1 here. I suggest that you put a 0 here. So now it's basically asking what's larger, 80 or 12? And we know that 80 is the larger number. So this is the bigger, this one here has more value right here. Okay, it's larger. So if you are watching this on March 26th, I want you to pause the video because you are going to be receiving a paper that gets you to do this. Okay, so pause the video. If you are watching this later, you can just continue watching, as you probably already have. And on this one here, it's asking us to place the decimals. So I like labeling them A, B, and C. It's just a visual thing for me. So 0.60 would be right here. So there's A. So we did that one. 0.08. It's not quite 0.1, so it's right over here. So this one's B. And for C, 0.34, it's right here. Okay. How does the number line show which number is greater? Well, the greater number is closer to 1 in this situation. It's closer to 1. Also, the greater number is furthest to the right side. So this is the right side over here. Okay. Next slide. So using this chart, we're going to look at some of these numbers here. So remember, 10th is out of 10, hundredths is out of 100, thousandths is out of 1,000. So we have 4/10 as the first one. So 4/10 would be right here. So we would write this as 4/10. This next one is 4/100 because it's 0.04. So it's 4/100. Okay. For 0.24, we've run out of room here, but we'll just use the bottom. It's 24/100. 0.5, it's 5/10. So that's 5/10. And the last one, 0.87, it's 87/100. Now, one thing to look at, see how there's 2 decimal places here? This is 2 zeros over here. 2 decimal places, 2 zeros. 1 decimal place, 1 0. 2 decimal places, 2 zeros. 1 decimal place, 1 0. This may help you. In our final slide, we have a couple of word problems. So let's have a go at the word problems. You can pause this to do this on your own if you choose, but let's get right into it. So John ran 0.3 kilometers on Monday. I'm just going to underline the numbers that are needed. So John ran 0.3 kilometers on Monday and 0.24 kilometers on Tuesday. Okay. Which day did he run farther? So now the problem here that students face is that they see 0.3 kilometers and 0.24 kilometers. What I recommend is for 0.3 kilometers, you add the 0 at the end. So this way they both have 2 decimal places. So now when you're comparing them side by side, it's very easy to see that on Monday, he ran further because that decimal is larger. So let's try that thinking with the second example. In Tina's collection, 0.34 of her stamps are US stamps, and 0.2 are Canadian stamps. So I'm going to rewrite this. 0.34, that's her American stamps, and the Canadian stamps are 0.2. So these are the Canadian. Okay, so now we have again 2 decimal places here and only 1 here. So the solution is to make it 2 decimal places. So now we know that she has more American stamps. American stamps. Okay, so she has more. So we'll try that for the final question again. The school is 0.5 kilometers from the library and 0.48 kilometers from the skating rink. Which is closer to the school, the library, or the skating rink? So let's write 0.5 kilometers. This is the library. And 0.48 kilometers for the rink. So again, we have 1 decimal place here and 2 here. So 48 is a bigger number than 5, but remember, 5 is really 50. So 0.50 kilometers to the library and 0.48 kilometers to the rink. So which is closer? Well, the rink is closer to the school because 0.48 kilometers is actually closer than 0.5 kilometers. So the library is just a little bit further away. So you do have to watch the wording for that one. That's all for this video. We will be watching more. I will be recording a few more. So thanks for watching. Rewatch this if you need to. And see you in the next one. Bye-bye.